All right, here we go. October 7th. You guys probably have guessed where I'm at right now by the background.
Actually, no. Is that your stateroom, master bedroom?
No, this is actually the main salon.
I remember it now. Yep.
Yeah, this is the main salon. So I turned around. Usually I'm sitting over at the other end of the couch, and you guys are looking out the back window. But I found that a little distracting with all the guys working back there in the window. So I turned myself around for you. So some of those guys they're interesting.
Don't need to say any more about that.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, the air show was awesome up till Saturday about 4 o'clock when the oil started coming by. And unfortunately, there was we went 3 days. We went Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Unfortunately, we left about 9 people on the dock Friday because they didn't show up on time. And the Friday show was incredible. It was absolutely spectacular. Saturday was even better. And we were looking forward to Sunday. And when I got up Sunday morning, I actually woke up about 6 o'clock to my phone getting pinged one after another. And everybody was telling me that the oil spill had shut down the air show. So we already had several people en route to go see it. So I figured, well, maybe we can't do the air show. We'll at least do a boat ride. So, and Jeffrey, you were on there for that. That was pretty cool. We at least went out, saw some dolphins, and cruised down the coast a little bit.
Some dolphins. Holy cow! There were at least 500 of them, if there was one.
Wow.
I've never seen it like that.
Yeah, we saw a few, huh? It was funny. I told everybody, I'm like, yeah, there's dolphins out here on this curve, and it was there. That's right where they were. We pretty much went right to them. It was awesome. But we had a great time. Everybody, when you guys, every once in a while, I'm going to throw invites out. If any of you guys want to come out and go on the boat and all that. I know some of you aren't local, but if you are ever in town, let me know ahead of time and I will make arrangements so we can get you out here. So if you're ever in Southern California or even for Gary, he's in Vegas, it's just a short car ride.
It's only about 12 for me, John.
12 car rides or 12 hours?
Actually, it's a 12-hour drive.
You're in Colorado?
Yep.
Yeah.
Up in the mountains.
All right. Well, that's cool.
What port do you usually sail out of? Just curious.
We're in Long Beach. We're docked in Long Beach, California.
Oh, you're super close to me. I'm near LA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're in Shoreline Marina. It's basically like when I look out my back window, I'm looking right at the Long Beach Convention Center. So we're right there. The aquarium's just off to the side, and we have a spectacular view of the skyline of Long Beach. So yeah,
it's only a two and a half day drive for me, John. And it'll take me longer to get out of Texas than it will to get to California.
Well, get started, jump in the car, and get going. I hear Craig he had mentioned something about he was going to be out here in a week or two.
He'll be out there next week. At least him and I just talked this morning. It's like the 15th, I think he's out there. So.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that would be really cool when he has his if he pulls a last minute mastermind, we can pop.
I don't think he's going to pull a last minute mastermind. He can barely, he still can barely perform because his phone call with me this morning is still a lot of coughing. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, I guess that really takes the wind out of your sails. Takes a while to get back on your feet from that.
It does.
But I had texted him. I kind of was texting back and forth with him last night. I was teasing him how great the sunset was down here. I was sending him some photos. And one thing I found out yesterday, I told him, I go, it's probably a good thing that you canceled your live event because I just don't think people are quite ready yet. I mean, TNC, here's a perfect example. It was supposed to be 10,000 people at TNC. That's traffic and conversion. That was a few weeks ago when I went to it. And I remember I said it seemed kind of light, but I wasn't sure because it was in a much bigger venue. They actually put it in the San Diego Convention Center. Well, I used our crowd targeting to target the event to get all of the people that were on the show floor. Basically, anybody that was in that convention center the entire time, I know who they are now. I can retarget them with the crowd targeting. And what I discovered, there was 1,200, I think it was 1,297 people.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
supposed to be 10,000. So, and yeah, Gary, you were there.
Oh, yeah. I thought there was less than 2,000, but I didn't know it was that much less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you think like those ballrooms we were in, that they had the main speakers in,
Yeah.
they were set up for,
Yeah. They were
probably
really
1,000
stretched.
chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were pushing everybody to the front, removing all the chairs in the back. It was, yeah, to try to make it look
Yeah.
fuller. But,
Yeah. And some of the stuff that they did, just like trying to be stealthy about it, they would tell you when you went in the room, the seat, the people paid a lot of money for the VIP seats and they were giving them away just to try and make it look like there was people in the front of the room.
yeah.
And they still didn't fill it up. They didn't even fill up the VIP section. That's how sparse it was.
Yeah.
And this makes a lot of sense. I think at the last minute, I think they realized what was happening. And this was the first time ever, and some of you guys took advantage of it. They reached out to all the alumni, which I'm alumni in TNC, and they said, hey, we're going to allow you to bring your friends. And they gave us discount codes, which basically made it free. So I put the invite out to, all of you guys, if you wanted to go to TNC for free with me. And that was a first. They've never given free access to anything that has to do with TNC. Not even to walk the vendor floor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like $400 if you want to walk the vendor floor. And they basically gave us free access to everything. First, they said it was just the vendor floor and the keynotes, but they were allowing anybody into everything. They just wanted butts in the seats. And it was still, like, I couldn't believe it when I saw the actual number of people on the crowd targeting. It was under 1,300. I'm like, whoa, they took a bath on that event. I mean, imagine how much it cost them to rent out the entire convention center, San Diego. That was a big bill right there. And all the, everything to put that show on, that was a fortune. There's no way they took a beating on that. So I told Craig, I'm like, you were probably lucky you pulled out. So anyway, that's kind of just what's going on. I don't see it really slowing down anything in the online space. If you guys are selling stuff online, whatever it is, even training, events, public speaking, any of that stuff, there's a lot of opportunity. Start reaching out, whatever you're an expert in, start reaching out to people that need speakers. Get out there, share your message. If you're not comfortable with that, which I know a lot of people aren't, it's a lot less stressful to do a Zoom presentation than to stand live on a stage. I totally get the fear. I mean, I get there's a terror to that, standing on a stage with all eyeballs on you. I get it because I've been there. I had to go through NLP training to reset my whole brain to be able to do that, because in the beginning, I had a lot of people that wanted me to speak to different groups, and I was very uncomfortable being in front of a group. And I would always make sure that I could control the environment when I was going to do that. And I would always speak from the back of the room. I was perfectly comfortable speaking, I just wasn't comfortable with all eyeballs on me. So what I would do, I would put a presentation up so they could be watching the presentation, and I would just position myself in the back of the room with the microphone and talk to them. I was perfectly comfortable with that. So I made sure that I always had control and I could do that. And then came a time where I lost that control. It was when I got invited to speak at Glacier Kennedy. And this was 2,000 people in the audience and not even a podium to hide behind. And when I agreed to that, I took a step back. When I hung up the phone, I'm like, what the hell did I just do? I was like, there was like a shriek of pure terror that was running through my veins. And it was like a year out, it was almost a year ahead that I had to prepare myself for that. And the one that I reached out to was Matt Browning. I know a lot of you guys know Matt. He's a NLP practitioner, master trainer, all that stuff. And he has scheduled stuff like a year in advance. And I had already missed like half of the prerequisites. And he's real sticky about like not putting you into the middle of something that you can't handle. And I had to really convince him that I could make the spread on the gap and keep up. And he agreed to let me in, and he gave me some pre-home study courses to kind of get myself up to speed. But for any of you that don't know, NLP is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's basically how to communicate effectively and how to get your mind to communicate your conscious with your subconscious to get rid of any kind of fears, any kind of trepidations that you might have, and really just kind of realign your brain. And I'm telling you right now, this shit works really well. It really does. And a lot of people have hangups. There's a lot of people that I see that I'm not an NLP practitioner or trainer or any of that. I've just kind of been through some of the training, but I know enough that when I carry on a conversation with somebody privately, I can actually use it on them to help them. And, like I said, I by no means am, as good as any of the real guys that do this, but I've helped a lot of people get through some of their blocks with it. A lot of people have a money block. They don't want to make over a certain amount of money and they're uncomfortable with it. And it always stems, like any of your fears, anything that's getting in your way is usually found in childhood. The seed was planted way back when, and it just grows and grows and grows. And, the tree is now formed and you don't even know it. But you got to go back and eliminate the tree if you're going to get around it. So,
hey, John.
Yeah.
There's good and bad in everything. And I've studied NLP too. And I'm sure others have. The thing about NLP, it bothers me, that does bother me a little bit, is it can be used for great things, good things, and it can also be used on the opposite side of the fence. And so, it's just one of those things where you just got to be really careful when you're talking about NLP, because there are a lot of people that use it for ill purposes.
Yeah, that's absolutely true and 100% accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you're talking about right now, you're going back when you said in your childhood, and that's one of the things I spend a lot of time talking on when I'm coaching, because even though I have this model that I use, this success model, I call it the blueprint for success. The very first thing we always do is go back and address people's gremlins. And it's amazing how much breakdown and breakthrough that people have. And that what you said is basically one of the gremlins that people have. But there are hundreds of gremlins that we have. And you have to break through that and get real with that, because we never get rid of our gremlins. Just so each and every one of you understand, we never get rid of them. We learn how to change their role currently in our life as adults, because a lot of that stuff came from childhood and in a lot of different places in your childhood and your upbringing.
Well, one of the most fascinating things that when I went through NLP with Matt, one of the most fascinating things that I learned is it gives you the ability to alter the future by changing the past. And that sounds kind of weird, but it absolutely works. If you change the past, it alters your future. And that sounds maybe hocus pocus, but I'll give you a perfect example. And this is one that Matt uses. I'm just gonna give you his example of how I kind of got to wrap my head around this. He said, if you have somebody with road rage, the road rage isn't from today. It's like they don't go absolutely apeshit because somebody cut them off. They're going apeshit because it's the last string on the string of pearls, and the string will not hold another pearl. So that one little thing just sets them off. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. And that anger started it somewhere way back in the past. So what you do, he says, the way you alter the past to change the future is you timeline them back. You take them back in their mind, and they kind of walk back through their own history, looking for the first time that they experienced anger. And you let them find it. And, it's almost like a guided journey through your own mind. And you're just kind of walking back, thinking, back to childhood, thinking about, all the times that you got angry with whatever, and you're looking for the first one. And usually, like, if you task your subconscious mind to find something, it'll find it. So it goes back and it brings it up. And then he walks you through this process of re-experiencing it as though this is the first time it's happened to you. And you just play it back like a movie. And you feel that anger. You can actually really get pissed. But you're experiencing it as the child. And then he says, okay, now let's just float out of your body here and look at this. We're going to play the movie back again, but we're going to look at it as an adult. And when you do that, oftentimes you're like, why was I mad at that? And all of a sudden now, since that first experience of anger that you had, you kind of blow it off as like, why, that was nothing to get mad at. Why did I do that? All of a sudden now, every other experience that was based on that first foundational one is no longer true. It's like you cut the bottom of the string of pearls and all the pearls fell off the string. Now you're starting fresh. You're starting over from scratch. That's how Matt described it to me. He said, if you go back and you cut that string of pearls, that road rage is gone forever. It would take a lifetime to rebuild it.
Whenever I met with a client, especially the first time, I always carry a handkerchief, and it's old school stuff. I was taught to always carry a handkerchief, and I hadn't used it, for a while. And then when I started coaching, it started coming in handy, and I started realizing, got to keep that handkerchief, a clean handkerchief, in your pocket. Don't use it yourself, because you can tell when you're peeling back and you're getting to the gremlins because of people's emotions. Their faces change. So I would just reach in my back pocket or my coat pocket and pull out a handkerchief and put it down in front of us. And it doesn't matter if it's a male or female, that handkerchief would end up being used before the session's over. And that's how real. And once you get through that, miracles begin to happen. But you have to deal with the past before you can go forward. And a lot of people that are wondering why they're stuck. No matter what you're doing right now, you're stuck. But a lot of it has to do with what you're not dealing with, what happened in the past.
Yeah, exactly. That's how Matt described it. You can alter your future. So what I did, the whole reason I got on this to begin with was to let you guys know how I got over that fear of being out in front of 1,000, 2,000 people, getting up on stage and making a presentation with literally zero fear. I have zero fear of that at this point. It's just gone. It's like the string of pearls got cut. That cut the string and it's gone. And he told me, he actually forecasted me, whatever he calls that, he walked me through a process where he told me, he goes, when you get to Atlanta, he says, you're going to be standing at the side of the stage. He said, you're going to be so excited to get up there. He goes, you won't be able to wait. And I'll be damned. When I was in Atlanta, I was standing at the side of the stage and I was so excited to get up there, I couldn't wait. And I'm like, what in the hell did he do to me?
That's called future pacing, John, and he anchored it.
Yes,
Future
exactly.
pacing and anchoring. And by the way, Randy, yeah, you can get rid of those gremlins. You can make them gone. You'll remember that they were there at one time and you'll think they're stupid, but you can definitely unplug that stuff. That whole timeline stuff was invented by Tad James, and I was there at the time, and I didn't get any credit for it. And Richard Bandler was there with Tad and me and a couple other guys. And that was where the start of this whole timeline stuff, because you can actually, we almost killed a guy because in that process, you can disconnect their language from them. And that really raises havoc. So you're absolutely right, Randy. That NLP is absolutely, literally deadly if it's not used correctly, because we were experimenting with stuff and we discovered that that's not something to be messed with. You need training if you're going to use NLP. You really do. Don't try and go online and take a course and think you're going to be good at it. You're putting yourself and other people literally in danger, because it's not a safe technology without training.
Well, yeah, and it's just not fair. It's not fair.
But it's incredibly powerful. I mean, it is just incredibly powerful. I actually love the whole timeline thing. I use it on myself all the time. Like, it was just a couple of years ago, I actually went back and I found some fascinating stuff of how I am, or what made me who I am. You know, the whole thing with my dad going through Newport Harbor. You know, so over my entire life, you know, I've never worked for anybody. I've never wanted to work for anybody. In fact, the whole idea that just makes me sick. And I never knew why. I never knew why I had such a strong belief on that. Like, I always attributed it to just freedom. You know, I'm just all about freedom. I didn't realize how I got there. And I timeline back. I'm like, let's go find it. You know, so many people had asked me, you know, how did you get to be who you are? How do you do what you do? And I didn't know. I'm just like, I don't know. Isn't everybody like this? You know? And so I actually timeline back on myself and I found it. It was like a time in Newport. We used to fish. You know, we had a little family boat. My dad and my grandfather were totally into fishing. And almost every weekend they were taking that boat out. And, you know, when I got old enough, I started going with them. And I remember it was probably about 8 years old. We're going through Newport Harbor and I started noticing, I started getting the contrast of the little crappy wooden boat we were in and the big, beautiful sport fishers that were in Newport Harbor. And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, why don't we have one of those? Those look a lot nicer than our boat. Why don't we have one of those? And it was what he told me that changed everything for me. He told me, and it startled the shit out of me, what he said. I didn't get it for a while. He told me, he goes, we don't have one of those because I have a job. And that just floored me. I was like thinking, you know, he was who I had always looked up to. I'm like, he goes to work every day. He provides for us. We have a great life. It's because of he has a job, right? That was my thought. That was my model of the world. And when he said that, it knocked me on my ass. And I was like really confused. I was thinking, you know, what, are these people don't work? Is that what you got to do to get one of these big, beautiful boats? You just don't work? Don't have a job? What are they, on welfare? You know, what's the deal? I didn't get it. And when I asked him, I said, you know, what do they do if they don't have a job? And he said, they have businesses. And I'm like, that right there was the trigger. And it was cemented so deep in me. I don't want a job. I want a business. I want one of those big boats. I don't want this little boat. I want a big boat. And that was it for me. And that was probably somewhere around 8 years old.
I'm stunned he was so insightful as to realize that.
Yeah, I really wish he was still around because he was gone when I figured that out. And I would have really liked to ask him. And I know growing up, like when I think back now, I've timeline back of a lot of the stuff that I experienced with him, the things that he told me along the way. I was never told that money doesn't grow on trees. I was never given any negative messages around money. I was taught from as far back as I can remember, you can have anything you want. You just have to figure out how to generate the money to get it. That was it. Like, you know, this was before 8. He brought home, and this is another one of the things that I timeline back and I found. He brought me a model airplane kit home from work one day. And it was the model airplane for the Corsair, which he and I had been watching this TV show on I think it was Thursday nights or Friday nights, and it was called Baba Black Sheep. And it was, you know, I think it was Robert Conrad, and he was, you know, the colonel or whatever. And he was the leader of a squadron of Corsairs in World War II. We loved the show. That was one of our things. We watched that show on a regular basis. And then here he brings me home a model airplane kit of the Corsair. And he and I built that together. And I was so into it that the second we finished it, I wanted another one. You know, I always talk about this. When you get what you want on your timeline now changes and you have a new timeline, you want something different. Well, when I got that plane built, I instantly wanted another one. And I asked him, I said, you know, could we go get another kit? I'd love to build another one of these with you. And he said, the thing he said, these things cost money. You can have all of them you want. You just have to figure out how to pay for it. And, you know, at the time I was allergic to everything on the planet. So like mowing lawns wasn't an option for me, but I wasn't allergic to water. And I figured, hey, I can wash cars. Every one of our neighbors has a car and I can wash it for $0.25. And it didn't take long when I had enough money to buy my next airplane kit. He hauled me down there and let me do it. And that was the start of me making money and understanding money buys you what you want. Like I tell everybody, if you think money can't buy happiness, you don't know where to shop. Because it does. I guarantee it. I mean, it won't make you happy. I get that. You are the only person in your life that can make you happy. And that goes back to the NLP too. That was one of the things I learned. You can get into whatever mode you want instantly. If you're sad, if you're whatever, you can be happy in an instant, in a snap. You are in control of you. So if you want to get depressed and you want to stay there, it's no one's fault. It's you. You know, if you have something bad happen, you have a client that fires you, you lose money, the stock market tanks, you're going to feel shitty about it. But how long is up to you. When you decide you want to fix it, you will. And you are in control of how long that's going to take. It's just stuff I've learned over a lifetime. So, you know, and back to my whole thing, there's a lot of opportunity right now for you to get on stages. And, you know, we covered some of the things why you might not be doing it. Fear is a big one. Fear of being on stage. I told you how I got over that. I told you you are in control of all of the things that are you. You know, how you feel about stuff. You get to decide when that stops. You get to decide when you're going to move forward, when you're going to be more successful, when you're going to go out and make the money you need to get what you want. That, to me, that makes me pretty freaking happy to have what I want. So, you know, it sounds harsh to me too when I'm saying this to you. It sounds harsh, and I'm usually not that kind of person, but I just want you guys to know that you know, nobody's going to do this for you. we're all grown-ups here and we're in control. You know, it's up to you what you want to get and how fast you're going to get it.
Amen, John. The truth is the truth. It's not harsh. It's just true. If it's harsh, you've made that decision too.
Yeah. And I decided that I want to be a very nice and pleasant person. And, you know, it's not very often I lose my cool. You know, it takes a lot. I got a long fuse, and that's by choice. But, you know, I'm capable of getting to the end of the fuse and blowing up. But I just choose not to do that if I don't have to. So,
You know, John, I think we all have that ability to call it like you see it. And there's different points in our lives and different points in our profession that you absolutely have to call it like you see it and cut out all the malarkey and all that. But as a coach, most of the time you're trying to instill the courage for people that people don't have yet. And you're dealing with all that stuff in the past and trying to move them forward as well and have it become their idea that transformation has to happen internally before it can show externally. And so it's really, you know, it's a myriad of different things that you have to be dealing with in order to get that person to a point where they're starting to feel the courage and have the gumption to take action. And they sometimes it's not just a matter of having money. They might have the money to invest in something that's a good idea for them, but they don't have the courage to take the step. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. And there's the money thing too. A lot of people say, well, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. But they can't afford this. They can't afford that. And it's true to a certain point. But what do? You have to crawl before you walk before you run, right? So you find people like you and you maximize that until you can create the momentum to start making the ends meet so that you can. Because a lot of my clients, you know, I've been told for years, don't lower your fees. So I don't lower my fees, but at the same time, I have this compassion because I know how it is to start on the other side of the railroad tracks, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people they didn't have a spoon in their mouth. And so how do you reach back and serve the community and serve other people? And your heart has to be grow your business and so forth. So there's a balancing act. And that's where I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. Well, it's all about, you know, opportunity and being able to look at what's an opportunity. I love what Jim just said in the chat. He said, do you want to carry a pound of lead or a pound of gold? And that's about choices. You know, you've got tons of opportunities around you. You might not be seeing, but when you start to look, they're there. Like, I bet you every one of you knows somebody that could feature you and let you speak to their group and endorse you, put you up on a pedestal, say, here's my group. I've built trust and authority with them. I'm going to transfer that onto you in an instant. You know, tell them how you can help them. And you know, that's all you have to do. I know every one of you knows at least somebody that either could put you on there or connect you with somebody.
And in fact, if there's a person here in this group right now that hasn't asked John to come on to their show or come on to I know Tim probably has, to come on to whatever it is you're doing as a special guest, you really need to do that, because I asked Craig to do it and he did it in no time at all. And we've got an upcoming webinar at the end of this month, and John is coming on and he's going to be sharing his expertise on lead generation and all that good stuff. And even if 10 people show up and 5 people connect with John after it's over, then it's a win for 5 people. And so we all have access to John and we have access to each other. I've been on Tim's show, and like Tim says, he has a fast cut rule. If you cancel on me 2 times, I'm done with you. Well, that makes sense to me. It's not harsh. It's like he's got a business to run and he can't play around and play games. And that's what we've got to support each other on, in my opinion, and make sure that each of us are doing. We got to hold each other accountable. And the biggest thing is asking for help. If you ask for help, people are going to help you. But if you don't ask, they're not going to help you.
Yeah, well, it's back to that whole trust, rapport, and authority. Like Tim's people follow him, they trust him. So if he tells them, hey, I'm going to have John on my show next week, they believe him. And then when John doesn't show up, what happens to Tim? He's now lost his trust and authority, or it took a big dent. Maybe he didn't lose it, but it certainly doesn't help his credibility. So that's why he does what he does. He protects that. That is worth protecting. You know, when you have a reputation, when you've built that, you've spent a lifetime doing good, you don't want some joker to come and screw that up for you.
Hey, John,
So,
I'll
yeah.
tell you a story about that this week for everybody in here. Is my reputation. I'm not famous. I'm not, billionaire or anything, but like somebody that some people in here know. They were on the verge of selling their business, and Tim looked at it and went, They weren't selling. They were going to give up. And I basically called up and said, I'll give you this for it. I called. I said, you got 4 days to decide. Here's my offer. In less than 2 days, they wrote back and said, I don't know if I want to let this go quite yet. I think maybe there's something here. Because they realized if I'm willing to buy it, maybe there's something there that I knew and could see and was ready to put into action like that. So then not only that, they come back and said, well, also, I'd like to hire you as a coach.
That's awesome.
That's building your reputation. And yeah, I have a thing about, my show. And John, I think I don't know if John, I've ever had you on my podcast, but John's been to speak to my people. I'll bring it back anytime. You know what I mean? I just like to get bigger and bigger crowds for him, because almost every time John comes, somebody joins this program from it.
Yeah. It's, but that's, it's about expanding your pipeline. When you're in business, obviously business is about sales. If you don't sell your product or whatever you're trying to move, you're not going to be in business very long. So for you to get sales, everybody talks about a funnel, right? The whole reason that they talk about a funnel is because some visuals that were made long ago that describe the sales pipeline. And the pipeline is like, you got to put a whole bunch of leads into that pipeline. And as they go through, it's called a sales cycle. Not everybody buys instantly. There's a sales cycle. Some people have a much longer sales cycle. Sometimes they need to be touched more times throughout the sales cycle to move them through that journey. There's a lot of people call it a customer journey, a sales journey, whatever. I think Gary wrote a book on this about how many times you actually have to touch someone in the sales process.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's not just a one-touch deal.
No, it's up to 15 or more.
Yeah. So that is a pipeline. And what happens is those people that you drop in that pipeline, they're moving through. It's kind of like, this is a gross visual, but it's like when a snake eats a rabbit. You can watch that go through and you know where it's coming out, right? You can see how fast it's going, so you know about when it's going to come out, right? The sales pipeline is the same visual. They put it into a funnel a long time ago, and they say you drop a whole shitload of people up here in the top, and they kind of sift down, and one will drop out the end of the funnel, and that's your sale. So guess what happens? When you stop feeding the front of the pipeline, you have a sales lull. This is where you can run in your business, and all of a sudden the phone stops ringing and the money stops, and you start freaking out. You go, wow, it was really bitching last month. Well, it was really bitching last month because you filled the pipe 3 months ago. Then you stopped. And now you're experiencing the lull. You can't just fill the pipe and have it go overnight in most cases. So building, generating leads is an ongoing process. Getting in front of people is an ongoing process. You need to keep the pipeline full. You've got a ton of opportunities. Maybe the first one just gets your whistle wet. It just shows you, oh, it didn't kill me. Maybe I shouldn't be afraid of this. Maybe I should do this more often. But you got to take that first step. You got to get the ball moving. If you can't get the momentum going, then you got a problem. You have a business problem, a foundational business problem. If you stop filling the front of the funnel, like a lot of times a one-man show will do this. They'll do something, like they'll go on stage, they'll get some business, and then they're real busy, and everything's great for a month or two. Then all of a sudden it stops, and now it's not so great anymore. And that's why they forgot to keep the pipeline full. It's a basic business thing. If you stop filling the pipeline, you're going to experience a sales lull. Your income is going to drop if you can't sustain that. If you didn't make enough money, and this is the beauty of business, you can build a business based on whatever you want. Like when I was younger, when I, we're talking 35, I don't even know how many years ago. Back in 1985, let's say. 85 was the year I started my photo career. And I was in high end. I didn't want low end. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to work a little bit. Imagine that. My ethics haven't really changed much over the decades. I wanted to work hard, make a shitload of money, and then be free for the rest of my time. And I positioned myself in that business where during catalog season ran from about September through November. So September, October, November, I was busy as shit. I made a boatload of money. When I started in that career in 85, my day rate was $1,200 a day plus expenses. Think about that, 1985, what that would be today. That was a lot of money. And it funded my entire playtime for the rest of the year. I worked my ass off for those 2 or 3 months, and then I was fishing. I was out playing on boats, playing in the water for the rest of the year. And then my sales cycle would start up again. And I made enough in that little time that I could sustain a sales lull for 3/4 of the year. A lot of people in real estate are this way. And they're not I was by design when I did that. I wanted the summers off. I did not want to work in the summer because there was fish to play with. I didn't want anything to do in the summer except go have fun. Endless summer, that was my life. So I designed it that way. Some people, like a lot of real estate agents, they are what's called feast or famine. That's not by design. That's by a flaw. That's a flaw of letting the pipeline go empty. So just so you know, there's a difference between by design engineering yourself a big chunk of time off and making enough money in the time you worked to sustain that versus having the phone stop ringing and freaking out. There's a big difference. So you design your life. If what you're doing doesn't have the opportunity to make the kind of money that you want to make to live the style you want to live, then you need to change something. There's opportunity everywhere. You don't have to keep doing something that's not making you happy. I've shifted gears many times throughout my life. I've shifted many times into many different things. Sometimes it was stuff I was uncomfortable with. Sometimes it was stuff I knew nothing about. Like when I shifted out of photography, that really was not by my design. That was by force. Because what I used to do, I did special effects. Very few people knew how to do what I did, and I got paid a lot for it. Well, after about 8 years in that business, coming into the 9th year, this little thing called Photoshop came on the scene. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to be the end of this gravy train. I mean, I had my ideal life designed out, and it ended like that. Just boom, it was over. And I was sitting there going, what in the hell am I going to do now? And I remember it was shortly after Barb and I got married. And she was flipping out. She's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And I started looking at opportunities. Like, I was wondering, what am I going to do next? And I saw this little thing, this little train on the track coming, and they called it the internet. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about computers. I knew nothing about anything to do with what I'm doing now. Zero. But I saw it as an opportunity of all these big companies, all these big businesses that I was doing photography for. All I did was I looked at what are they going to need next, and can I provide that for them? You know, and like any of you that know Laurel Langmeyer, she says, say yes and then figure it out. Well, that's probably the best words that ever came out of her mouth. You say yes, you see an opportunity, you say yes, if it's a true opportunity. Like, I knew, I could see it. I could see it coming that, hey, this is the way business is going to go. Every business is going to need this. I can be the provider. I was so far on the front end of that sword, it was unbelievable. And I had problems. I had issues. I had hurdles that I had to get over to make it work. One of my biggest problems was all those businesses, they had huge budgets for advertising. And I had been tapping into those, making a lot of money. My problem was they didn't have any budget for web development. It was new. They had no budget for it. But I knew they all had petty cash budgets because I'd already tapped into those in previous times. So I basically, I said, here's the deal. I'll build the website for you for free. They all wanted it. They just didn't have the budget for it, but they all wanted it. So I said, I'll build it for you for free if I host it for you. I have a hosting company. I can host it. We charge $200 to $300 a month for hosting. And nobody knew what hosting was worth. It was like virtual real estate, and it was good money. You know, I was turning pennies into $10 bills just with the hosting. So I started building about 3 websites a week. Didn't know anything about programming, didn't know anything about web development. I found a program called NetObs Fusion. I'm just kind of taking you guys on a history lesson here through my life. But this is about getting from one spot to the next, figuring out where the opportunities are, so you don't wind up working your ass off, not making what you want to make and being miserable. I always look for where can I make the money I need and not have to work too hard for it. So anyway, I found a program that would allow me to build these websites at lightning speed. Use that technology, leverage that technology to build all these sites on an average of about 3 a week. So I'm increasing my income. Think about this. Every week I'm increasing my income by about $600 a month. $200 a month for each one, 3 a week. I'm going up $600 a week. So within the first month, I've got $2,400 a month coming in forever. I did that for a little over a year. And when I got to the end of that first year, I told Barb, I'm like, I don't think I have to work anymore. It doesn't matter if we're sitting here or if we're out on a cruise. I got the same money coming in, and it's more than we need. So we spent like 6 weeks on cruise ships that year. I'd never been on a cruise before, but we spent like 6 weeks on different cruises throughout that first year that I discovered I didn't have to work anymore. And it was really cool. There was a lot of things that changed, and it allowed me to be much more creative with my opportunities and the things that I was doing for money. It allowed me to make even more, even faster, all the affiliate type stuff. Anything I could do to create mailbox money, I was leveraging, I was piggybacking. So there's opportunity around every corner. It's just some of it is worth doing and some of it's not. You want to make sure you don't wind up spinning your wheels doing a lot of work and not getting anywhere. I almost won't touch something at this point in my life if there's not recurring revenue to it. There's very few things that I will touch that does not have recurring revenue. I just won't put any time into it. You know, even website development. I have a website development company. I've got a whole team of guys that build websites for me now. But I won't even take those on unless we're doing the hosting on the back end, because it's a one-shot deal. You get paid once and that's the end of the show. I just won't enter into those kind of relationships anymore. You know, I want lifetime value of customers. I want recurring income. And that's just the way I look at opportunity now. It's like the one-time thing so much resembles a job to me, it's repulsive. It's like I just won't touch it. So, you know, maybe that's just a different way of thinking. Again, I think my dad seeded that. He cemented that foundation in me when I was 8 years old. And I didn't really know it until just a few years ago. I finally figured it out. But it's like, you know, you talk about the Jedis, the force is strong with me. You try and pull me in a direction that I don't want to go, and you'll think my feet are in cement.
Hey, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, haven't seen you guys in a while. It's been pretty busy, but I got a couple questions. Are you guys still doing the Sitepop section? And how much is that ballpark a month to get? I have like 3 cell phones that I could use to get that going.
Okay. We have a $47 a month level, which gives you 3 projects. We've got a $97 level, it gives you 10 projects. And then we've got the agency model that gives you 50 projects for $197.
And that's the one where it does the jujitsu on Google for certain keywords, or how does it work?
Yeah. What it's doing, it's basically Google. Everybody thinks it's AI that Google is doing. It's actually machine learning. It's basically, it's a machine that is learning what a good user experience is. And what Sitepop does is it sends signals out through search to train it. So it's learning. We are just the teacher. We're teaching it what a good user experience looks like. Like, for instance, you can run a search for almost anything you want right now, and you'll see mostly big brands come up at the top. Big brands come up because the machine has learned people know about them. People actually search them by brand. So that's why they're coming up. The machine has figured out, hey, these are big brands. People know about them. They're searching for them specifically. Let's feature them. They're popular. So the little guy, this is incredibly unfair to the little guy trying to do his own SEO because he doesn't have that brand recognition. So what Sitepop will do, it'll send a search from a real user's phone to Google, and it looks for your site. When it doesn't find it, it revises the search and it puts your brand name next to your keyword, reruns the search so you come up, then it clicks through and provides that user experience. That happens enough times and Google finally gets the picture of, oh, this must be a big brand. These guys must be important. This is what people are looking for. Let's just put it at the top. Its machine has learned you're the one they want. That's how it works in a nutshell.
Awesome. And and do you guys set that up, or is that something I have to go through like a training period to figure out how all that?
It's super easy to set up. All you're doing is you're just putting a domain in, the keywords you want to rank for, your contact page, and the location of the business. There's really not much to setting it up. We do have a model where we sell it as a service versus a software. but for you, it wouldn't make sense. It'd be way easier for you to just set it up and not pay for it as a service.
Yeah.
Like, to give you an idea, when we do it as a service, we charge $97 a month for each project. As a software, you're buying 3 projects for $47 a month.
And then how long do you typically have a contract for, like 6 months or?
I never really do contracts with anybody unless it's something, if it's something where it's expensive and I don't think they're going to stick, then I'll do a contract, or I'll do a weighted front end. Like what I found with SEO is, no matter how well I explain SEO to someone, that, you know, I tell them, I said, this is a long-term, forever type thing. This is not something you just dip your toe in. I said, if you just want to dip your toe in, just take your money and go do pay-per-click. You'll get instant results. It'll work or it won't, and then you can make your decision. But anybody at all that has ever approached me for SEO, I always have that conversation. This is a long-term thing. You're not going to get fast results. You're going to be in this 3 months before you even start seeing anything happen. And at that point, you're going to have to figure out, you know, is my stuff on the other end going to convert? You know, right. I'll usually look at that too, and I'll tell them, I go, you're not ready for SEO. If I brought you a bunch of traffic, you're not going to be able to do anything with it anyway. So why would we do that?
Would this work for like rental websites, like you know, la-roofingrepair.com, or sites where I could build out a site in Kartra or WordPress or whatever, and then grab people's leads, then funnel them to a particular service person, like pool repair or something like that?
Yeah, well, it works anywhere where SEO will benefit you.
Okay.
The thing with it is, it's a great tool, but it's not a magic bullet. It's not like a whole SEO project. Yeah. You've got to still have your on-page optimization for it to work. You've got to have your off-page optimization, and you've got to have your site conversion ready. Because what happens, let's say we run Sitepop on and it pops you to the top. Doesn't mean you're going to stay there, because now you're going to have a whole new problem. When I get you to the top of Google, Google's going to start sending real people to you. If your experience sucks, those real people are going to negate the good experience I provided to get you there. It's almost like a title fight. I'm going to put you in the ring. I'm going to give you a shot at the title. But if you can't win the fight, you're done. You're out. You lost your shot.
So you have to have Google Local and all of the 3-pack or 6-pack, whatever it's called.
Well, ready. Not necessarily that. I'm talking about your site itself. When I drop real people on your site, if they look at your site and they go, and they bounce off, you're going to negate all the good experience I used to get you up there to get that shot at those real people. You got to be ready to get in the ring. If you're going to fight, you got to be ready. You have to, you
have to have a converting offer.
Yeah. You've got to have calls to action. You've got to have big ideas. You've got to grab their attention. You've got to tell them what to do. You know, if you don't have that stuff in place, that's the whole reason I built the ACT program, because so many people didn't have that. So my SEO, as good as it was, it wouldn't help. It made me feel helpless. You know, it's like I get all these people that want me to help them with SEO, and I can't, because I know better. You know, it's like that thing. I choose what I'm going to go into. I'm not going to go into a fight knowing I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to walk up to a guy that's 10 feet tall and 400 pounds and pick a fight with him. That's just not a good idea.
You know? And then the final question is, have you ever heard of Go High Level, and a platform that they integrate? It's a CRM that allows you to do chat with SMS as well as email on the direct messaging or direct marketing?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Okay.
Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything good or bad. It just, I haven't heard of it.
Okay. All right, cool.
There's a ton of them I haven't heard of because I haven't been paying attention. Once I got into Kartra, I have been so sold on Kartra. It's just I have tunnel vision now. I just don't look at any other platforms. I get something that works and I leverage the shit out of it.
Boy, am I glad you know Kartra, because boy, I tell you, you answered a ton of questions. As I'm working on a project right now in Kartra, and every time I'm stuck, I ask you a question.
Yeah, and I usually have the answer.
John?
You do. One day it was like
John.
it was like 45 minutes. I'm like, he's looking it up. He's figuring it out himself.
No, actually, I hadn't seen it. That's funny.
John, I'd like to coattail on what Kelly was just talking about. You're talking about the Sitepop, as you even say in your presentation, that's 50%, but the other 50% is the linking and the content, which is, quite frankly, if you look at all the SEO companies now, all they're talking about, the old expression of like, if you can't dazzle them, what is it? If you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, you confound them with your bullshit. And all they're talking about is they're gonna, if you sign up for SEO with any of these other companies, they are gonna bury you in data about all the data they're doing, and they're gonna be doing backlinking and content. It's all about backlinking and content and metrics and doing all this stuff, and nothing's about anything that nobody has. Sitepop is the bottom line. But you still have to have, even according to you, the other half of that, which is the linking and the content. Could you go into, because if I'm going to be offering Sitepop and somebody says, okay, I want to do that, first thing I got to do is look at their website, and I got to look at it through the lens of the content and the backlinking, because that's not something that Sitepop does, and I need to know if that's something I need to do for them, and if so, I need to know what to do correctly so that it works in harmony with Sitepop.
Well, sure. I'll kind of cover that, but think about it this way: the website it's very similar to an electronic brochure or a sales presentation or something of that nature. That's really what a website is. So before you hire a salesperson and pay them a bunch of money to make a presentation, you want to make sure that presentation is good, right? You wouldn't hire a salesperson and pay them a bunch of money and send them out without the right tools, right? You would never do that. You would never spend money to advertise, something that wasn't proven and didn't have a real good shot of working, right? That would be like advertising a grand opening before you were really ready to open, right? Before you had paint on the walls and you had the shelf stocked. You wouldn't do that. I tell people over and over, do not think that something is going to work differently because it's online. It's not. The world didn't change because we got the internet, right? The way we are as people didn't change because the internet arrived. We're all the same. We all have the same characteristics and idiosyncrasies and all of that. If it doesn't work in the real world, it's not going to work here. So before you even think about promoting a website, let's make sure that it's going to convert. Let's make sure it's going to do what it's supposed to do. That somebody comes there, they're going to get what they wanted. They're going to get a good user experience. They're going to come back. They're going to appreciate it. Right? If you don't have that, you're not ready for SEO. The on-page part of that, that's the biggest part, really. Content, thinking about content for your visitor. This is all about the ACT program right here. If you haven't figured out who you're talking to and what they want, why they want it, you cannot go into creation and be successful. When you're creating a website, it should be based around who you want to work with and what they want and why they want it and all of that. So that's when I'm talking about on-page SEO, on-page optimization, that right there is a huge piece of it. It's not about tricking the search engine into thinking you've got better code than the next guy, right? That only gets you in the ring. That will not help you win the fight. The fight happens when a real person lands on your website. Google sees what happens. They see how long they stay. They see how many pages deep they go. They see how quickly they leave and don't come back. Google's not going to want to send more people to that kind of experience. It's just that simple. So Sitepop is something that will fake it till you make it. It will put you in the title. It'll put you in the ring. It'll give you a shot at the title, but it's not going to fight for you once you're in the ring. That's you. That's your content. That's your on-page optimization. Yes, the tags are still good. Well, here's the reason why title and description is so important to your on-page optimization. It's not about how many keywords you put into it anymore. It's not about how many times they repeat anymore. It's about your big idea. It's about grabbing someone's attention and getting them to click on you instead of the other 9 on the page. That's why they're important. That's optimization. It's really about your user. What is it going to take to get them to click? You know, I say putting a year into your title or your description can get your conversion ratio up. It can get more people to click. And the reason why is everybody wants to make sure they're looking at the freshest, most current data, right? That's something that's important to all of us. We don't want outdated shit, right? So if you come up and you got today's date, or you've got this year or even next year forecast that this is about next year, and no one else, the other 9 don't have that, who do you think they're going to click just because that one factor? That's optimization. Getting the click. Again, all about the user. Big idea is huge here. That's the whole reason the big idea is important. It's grabbing attention. If you're in the title fight, you got a shot at the title, you're going to get the knockout if you get the click. You're going to win, right? That's what it's all about. So when I talk about on-page optimization, I'm not just talking about the old school, you know, oh, let's cheat the code. You know, that stuff's great if you know how to do it. If you don't, it doesn't really matter anymore. As long as you can get the click and you get the good user experience. That's the key. So that's on-page optimization in a nutshell. Yeah, there's some cool stuff you can do like schema codes to help the search engine figure it out quicker. That stuff all helps, but nothing is going to help like your user experience. That's what your main focus should be. How do I serve my users? How do I make their life better? If you do, I can promise you're going to get rewarded for it. If you don't, you're going to get beat up. It's just that simple. It's just pure and simple. Really.
Where does the backlinking come into it then?
That's off-page optimization. What off-page optimization is, that is to get Google to look at you as a reality. It's like a popularity contest. And also it's like Google has a little bit of FOMO. If Google sees other people doing something, it feels like it's missing out if it's not doing it too. So if a lot of people link to you for a particular thing, like an anchor text, Google's going to assume, oh, they must be important for that, right? So that's where off-page signals and the search signals that we're sending through Sitepop is really an off-page factor. It's an off-page signal. It's someone else pointing Google to something that's important. So that's where link building and also the Sitepop comes in. It's user signals.
How do I get those if a site currently doesn't have any inbound links? How do I get those other people on the outside to link in? Because I know that going on Fiverr and getting 10,000 links is not going to do it. How do you get real ones? How do you get the real ones?
Yeah, it's not about how many links you get anymore. There's a high number of low quality links that are natural that you want to get that will never hurt you. They'll always help you. And those are generally from business directories like that. You can go on to Fiverr and you can have Fiverr list your business in all the business directories. You can get several hundred links through business directories on Fiverr for $10. That's worth doing. Those links, you know, everyone has them. So it's going to be like you didn't really get a leg up, but you did something you should have done anyway. So you're above negative. When everyone else has something and you don't, you're negative. So that puts you on a level playing field with everybody else. Everybody's doing it. So you should do that because it's natural and normal for your business to want to be listed in directories and business directories. That's not black hat. That's not out of the norm. That is perfectly natural for you to do that. So I always recommend everybody do that as a base. I also recommend you set up Google My Business and have that link to your website. That's an external link. That's a Google property that they trust highly. That's a good link to have. YouTube videos, anything you do to promote your business on other sites should link back to your website. Those are all good links to have. Again, everything I'm telling you right now is readily available to everyone. Everyone is doing it. So again, it's only going to get you on a level playing field. It's not going to leverage you ahead. This is the basics I'm talking about right now that you have to do just to survive, just to be equal with everyone. Now, if you want to go above and you want to beat them in this game, you need what's called outreach link building. Outreach link building is you're creating a really good piece of content and you're finding someone that has your audience that this content would be beneficial to and not competing with. And you offer it to them. You say, hey, I'd have an article that I think your audience would love. It will help you build credibility because you're providing it for them. All I want is a link back to me as the reference source. That's outbound linking. It's hard to do. You have to write good quality content to do it. You have to do some searching to find webmasters that'll place it for you. It's a little bit of work. That's why not everybody does it. That will give you a huge advantage. You can hire out. There's companies that do this. Orange Outreach is a company that does outreach link building. It's not cheap because it's not easy. It's also not common, which gives you the leg up. SEO is all about the leg up. Everybody gets the foundation. Everybody's on a level playing field. But it's when you get a leg up is when you go to the top. What the big companies have is a leg up because they're doing all that other normal stuff, right? You can do it too, and you're all equal. Where they get you as a leg up is they have brand recognition. So that's probably better than the link building. You know, a lot of people will link to them because they're like, oh yeah, go get it at Home Depot. Here's a link. They make it easy for their people. Other businesses want to make a good user experience for their customers. If they can link them out to something, instead of having just saying, oh yeah, you have to go search for it. Here, I'm going to be a cool guy. I'm going to just give you the link to it. Here's the link where you can buy that part at Home Depot. I know you got the right one. You'll have confidence to know you bought the right one. And then, you know, whatever. It's helpful.
Do press releases and those sorts of things help in that category, or is that too artificial?
No. Press releases, again, that's a very natural thing for a business owner to do. It's a very easy thing. When you're thinking about things, how easy is this for me to do? It's easy for everyone else to do too, and they're probably doing it. So think about all of that stuff as just, hey, this is stuff I should do just to level a playing field. But if you really want to beat people in SEO and you're in any kind of competition, you're going to have to do all that stuff that everyone else is doing, but you're going to have to go above and beyond. You're going to have to do some outreach link building. You're going to have to do search signals. You're going to have to get a shot at the title. And then your content, let your content work for you. If Google, it's fake it till you make it. If we fake you up into the title round, and you can beat the competition once you get in the ring, you're going to stay there. You're going to remain the champion until you get knocked off. It's just how it works.
What level is there a by the pound on content, or will a half a dozen good articles do it, or do you need to have hundreds of articles? What is there a threshold on that, or what's the thinking on that?
Again, it's not about quantity anymore as much as it is about quality. You would be better off to have less high quality articles that actually held people in place and got them to move through your sales cycle than having a boatload of just garbage articles.
Well, the one thing I was thinking is that anybody that doesn't recognize the huge shift to video, I think, is really myopic. And I was thinking, if I'm going to do content on my website, maybe do it in the form of YouTube videos and then put the videos, embed the videos on my website. So I've got both the content on my website plus the inbound link from YouTube and all. Is that going to leverage it?
Yeah, if you have, let's say you have good content videos and you have them transcribed, or if you do your video in Zoom, it'll do the transcription for you. You can take that transcription, you can plunk it onto the site, and now you've got high quality text content, you've got video content, you've got multiple modalities for your users. That's a positive thing to have multiple modalities. Some people are readers, some people are listeners. They might do much better listening to your video than reading a long page. Give them options. That's good for your users. That's a good user experience. We talked the last few weeks, I've been talking about the AI pieces. There's AI content writers. There's let's say you did a video and you had it transcribed. You can pipe that into Quillbot. Quillbot will rewrite it. It will fact check it. It will plug it with real high quality, good content, 100% unique. Now you got a really good article and you didn't really have to work at it. And it will fill it up with way more than you had in your video. It'll fill in any gaps that you may have missed.
Even when you're talking about proprietary stuff like Sitepop and why it works and what's going on, how does it recognize that when, if you're talking about content, okay, there's everybody talking about content. There's nobody talking about Sitepop or user experience in the way that you do it because there's nobody else out there doing it.
Well, there's people talking about every piece of it. They're just not stringing it together, and they don't have a magic wand to actually make it happen like I do. But their content is out there. The content exists. I guarantee you, people are talking about it. They just haven't figured out how to manipulate it, how to actually get it to be done automatically for you, like I have.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, and that's wonderful.
And I gotta tell you, I mean, I started that journey in 2010 with Sitepop. It used to be called Rainmaker. And if I hadn't have done that, if I had not created Rainmaker back in 2011,
remember it,
and just continued that journey through Sitepop to where we are today, I wouldn't be in the SEO world. I wouldn't be able to compete. I would not play a game. Remember I said earlier, I will not play a game I can't win. That tool is the only way I can win. It's the only thing that gives me the advantage that I have in that world. And without it, I wouldn't be here. I would be here, but I would not be an SEO. I would not be selling SEO services because they wouldn't be working for me.
Yeah, well, it's a hell of a deal. Did you have, or do you have a big idea or a couple of big ideas that you use for Sitepop? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, actually, there's an opportunity to come up to actually this guy's starting a class to say, okay, get into the information marketing. And I was wondering, okay, is there a way of doing an information marketing and tie it to Sitepop? So once you have taught them, they sign up to maybe, learn about SEO just for lack of it. And when they learn about SEO, then they understand that then you can upsell them into Sitepop or something along those lines. Is
Well,
there?
I have two big ideas that I've worked very effectively on to sell Sitepop. One of them I use on a regular basis to sell the software as a SaaS software to SEO guys. And that one, it goes something like, discover how a veteran SEO expert is now using AI to beat the search engines. That's kind of a big idea angle that I use very effectively in the SEO world. Now, if I'm going to business, I'm selling it as a service to a business owner. I go about it completely differently. I don't talk about SEO. I talk about how to get the biggest referral source on the planet to send you leads, to refer you instead of your competitors. And my whole presentation is about how their business was built on the back of word of mouth advertising. And that still exists in the online world. And the biggest word of mouth, the biggest mouth in the world is Google. We used to ask our neighbor who to go to for your pool service. Who's your auto mechanic? We don't do that shit anymore. We don't go ask our neighbors. Who do we ask? Hey, Google, who's the mechanic down the street? Or who's the best pool guy? I'm telling you, we ask Google. Google is the new word of mouth advertising. That's the angle I take. That's the big idea I wrap around every time when I'm talking to a consumer. How would you like to turn the clock back 20 years ago to when people actually referred you business and you just picked up the phone and took orders? That's the way it used to work. How many businesses do you know 20 years ago that were built on the back of word of mouth advertising? It was a lot. Well, Google now is the word of mouth advertising. It has changed the world. It's the same thing as it used to be. It's just we're asking a different person. We're not going to our neighbors anymore.
John, I was watching a seminar that was both online and virtual about 2 weeks ago, and the guy said, I'm going to mess with the people at home. So he just out really loud goes, hey, Alexa, order 2 cases of toilet paper for me, please.
Yeah, you hear the kids, they're all going, hey, Google, hey, Google, hey, Google this, hey, Google that. They're all
John, I totally agree with that, so much so that I put together, as you know, a 15-minute YouTube ad using that cut on it. The interesting thing is that when I'm doing those keyword search now to say, okay, who am I going to market to? What are the keywords that they're marketing for? Do you know that client referral and referring new clients and all those words are never searched? There's no competition for them. There's nothing about it. Anything you go down that road, it all points back to everybody now does know what SEO is, and that's what they're looking for. Interestingly enough, I was going to test that and see if, because I've tried looking for keywords around referral and all that sort of thing. The keywords don't show up anywhere as being anybody looking for it in that way, which is weird.
In search, they look a certain way, but where the big idea is okay, you find out where they are and you throw a big idea into them that grabs their attention, which you're saying something in a different way. So the big idea is not meant to be the search terms. The big idea is the attention grabber. So once you figure out your attention grabber, what's going to grab your audience, now you figure out where is this audience? How do I get this message in front of them?
Also,
they're generally not searching for your big idea, typically.
Okay, so you use the SEO terms, which is what they're looking for, and then you grab them with your big idea.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly how you do it.
That tracks. Okay, that makes much more sense. That's because there's a whole cloud, when you go on Google, there's a whole thing called interest affinity, which is who they are. And then there's content interest, which is what they're searching for. And those are two. And I'm having a devil of a time trying to get my mind around which is which and how do I put those into Google, into the YouTube, or actually Google ads, so I can advertise on YouTube in a way that will actually work. And getting that stuff straight in my head is really.
Yeah, it's like you're hunting. You have to figure out, which animal you're hunting, what they're interested in, where they're going to show up, what they're looking for, what they want, why they want it. The what they want, why they want it, that's part of the big idea part. They might be looking for something totally different, and you're going to hook them with your big idea. You're going to grab their attention, and you're going to draw them in. And don't rely on them looking for your big idea, because they probably are not.
Well, that's the point of having the big idea, right? It's the bucket of cold water that, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, you got to figure out where they are so you can throw that bucket in their face.
Okay.
That's where your keywords will come in. That's where you're going to figure out, which YouTube videos are my prospects watching? What Facebook groups are my prospects participating in?
Okay.
Where is my audience? What are they interested in? Where are they showing up? That's where you want to put that big idea. That's where you pay to put it.
My mind feels like, as you may know as a fisherman, when you cast that line out and you get that bird's nest in your reel. Only fishermen know what a bird's nest is in that context. And that's what my mind feels like, trying to get this stuff squared away. But this has been helpful.
Well, hopefully this is kind of, evening it out for you and kind of making it, give you clarity.
The one thing I'd like to do is scare the shit out of people and use it appropriately. What was the year that Google put that thing in the search engines, and what was it called again?
You mean when they started recording the user's data?
Yes.
I believe it was 2006.
Okay. And what was that called that they put in the browsers, the security update?
It's safe web browsing.
Okay.
So they're basically seeing everything that goes across your browser.
Now, there's two browsers out there now that are big guys saying that they're the private browsers and that sort of stuff. Are they really, or do they have this safe browsing?
It's
aspect.
DuckDuckGo is probably the biggest one that you're referring to.
Yeah.
And I believe they do have safe web browsing built into it, but I don't know for sure. What they're saying is about their privacy. They're like, it's none of our business what you're looking at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's, oh, what kind of dog is that? Oh, that's none of our business either. They're saying they're not going to use your data against you with their search engine. That's all they're saying. That doesn't mean that Google's not getting the data.
That was my thought. That's exactly what I thought was going on.
I wouldn't count on it. I would not count on that.
No. But you can strong suspicion is certainly an adequate statement that covers you.
Yeah. And I'm really kind of surprised that their messaging hasn't caught on more. Because remember a long time ago I said, history often repeats itself. And when we started this journey online, Yahoo was in a position of incredible strength, and everyone thought no one could overturn Yahoo. And this little search engine called Google came through and turned them upside down almost overnight with a simple concept of simple search. Right? That's what everybody wanted. They didn't want to have all this stuff jammed down their throat like they were getting with Yahoo. When you went into Yahoo, they'd try and figure out what you wanted, and they'd put you into their automotive portal. They had all these different portals, and all of a sudden you didn't know where you were. You were funneled into a portal of some kind. And Google came through with a simple concept, simple search. You're not going to get inundated with a bunch of crap. You're going to ask what you want, and we're going to give it to you. That was their concept. That's how they took over the world. And as you know, they're anything but simple search anymore.
Oh yeah.
They're
Yeah,
not
they even approached Yahoo to buy them and said,
Yeah.
"Can you please?" They could have bought Google for, I think, $2 million at some point.
yeah. They're anything but that. And I'd said sometime back, I said, if Google now is in the perfect position to be overturned from all the evil that they've done and all the things that are known about them, they're in the perfect position for some little guy to come in and sweep them off their feet, just like they did with Yahoo. And I said, Bing is in the perfect position to do it. I could go in and consult with Bing and I could tell them exactly how to do it, the messaging. And it's almost identical to what DuckDuckGo is doing right now. So I'm surprised they haven't gotten more traction faster with that message, because I think it's really privacy, all this stuff. It's all real top of mind. And the thing that I think really slowed that process down was the whole pandemic. People have just thrown their right to privacy out the window now. It's the thing is evil. The whole pandemic is absolutely evil.
Well, that's the whole thing about Cambridge Analytica. That's what they did with the 2016 election. If you on Netflix, watch The Big Hack, and it shows that they actually did just that. They took the privacy stuff and just turned it upside down. I mean, they were the ones that came up with, Crooked Hillary and all that sort of stuff and lock her up. It wasn't the Republicans, it was Cambridge Analytica, So yeah, this whole privacy thing is way out there. So, but thank you, John. That was really, that's the gold. You just
Cool.
gave me the pound of gold. I appreciate it. Thank you much.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up here?
Alice has her hand up.
Ellie,
Hi, John.
did we get you answered, or did you still have
Well,
some?
it's been a fascinating conversation and thank you, Richard, for the contribution. That was great. So John, I want to, let's get you set up with Bing and DuckDuckGo, and then you give us the insider trading.
You can't do that.
Anyway, you touched a little bit on, I have a question. If, we're developing this site for Woody, Alt Abilities, and with you guys, and I wanted to know if you have the AI already. Are you using any AI that we could use in the flow of that? Because he has reference sites that he likes, and if we could use that, whatever AI that you recommend, whatever program, to kind of scrape this one site and have the AI rewrite it. And then there's been a question on the crew, people that doubt the ability of these these services. Does it, when it writes something, John, is it stale and scientific, or do you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's several different programs that do the AI writing.
yeah.
And some of them, it depends on what level of service you get with them, but some of them will allow you to pick the tone. Like if you want it scientific, or if you want it light, or if you want it humorous, or, any of that stuff, it'll allow you to pick the tone you want it written in.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly haven't had a chance yet to get in there and buy them. I'm going to buy them all and play with them all eventually. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet.
Okay, because
So
that's one of the things I kind of want the Johnny review,
Yeah. I'm
So-
planning on doing that pretty soon. I just haven't
Okay.
got to it yet.
All right, so then I really, that was my question, because one of the big challenges, I think it would be very helpful. Woody's good at, he has ideas, and in my mind, if he had content to look at and then we would tweak it to his personality, so to speak. But to write it all from scratch will cost a fortune. And
oh yeah, you guys should definitely like look at those tools and figure out which one is going to do what you need. And yeah, you should. It would definitely be worth your while to invest in that, even if it's just for a month or two.
right. So
it?
that's one of the things. And then I guess
I know Tim had bought Jarvis, and he wasn't all that impressed with Jarvis. But it might have just, I think he was overwhelmed. Jarvis is probably the most powerful of all of them. It's definitely got the most bells and whistles. And he probably was just overwhelmed with it, just like when he bought Kartra. You know, he came back and he's like, oh God, oh, yeah, I can't do this. And then, you know, I helped him out with it. Now he loves it. So it might be a case of that. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really had a chance to play with it yet.
right. Well,
I was just reporting back on what Perry found, what he said, what he likes, and I know he does a lot of research, so he doesn't throw stuff out that's not good.
I tried it. I did buy Jarvis, and I got Quillbot and the other, and it's pretty darn good. You know, it's like anything. The quality of the output you get is really depending upon the input you give it. You know, I mean, it's not perfect by any means. It'll copy your style of writing or going through, depending upon what you like, which Alice, you mentioned was a concern. So yeah, in fact, I took Quillbot and I went to a competitor's site, scrounged that whole thing, went through all their testimonials and things, had copied those, had those rewritten so that I can include that content in my site. And, you know, it's rather powerful and could save you just a ton of time. And once again, you're not always stuck with exactly what they wrote. I mean, you can go ahead and edit it yourself afterwards, which I would suggest you do. But it does the real heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And so Gary, and John, everybody, whatever, that brings up an ethical question for me. Like if I mean, in terms of testimonials, wouldn't you want your own testimonials?
Well, no, okay. I'm not talking about stealing testimonials. What the testimonials have shown me, and all the ones they have, is what are the key benefits that these people see in a program. And so it's just a way of rephrasing what benefits are and listing those benefits section. I'm not going to say that any of those are testimonials. No, that's
no, I didn't think you would, but I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, I thought about this on my own, just you know, taking like and Gary and John, I don't know if you know which so what I'm trying to figure out is which program would be good to point to that specific site and kind of like, you know, like you said, scrape it and then see what comes up.
Quillbot is the one that's made to import text and then rewrite it.
Right, yes. And the free version allows you to do up to 700 characters at a time. So, I mean, you can, you know, it'll work on, say, 1 or 2 paragraphs at a time.
Is it 700 characters or words?
No, characters.
Oh, that's not very much.
No, that's like a sentence. Oy vey. Well,
not quite that bad, but close enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it's Quillbot that we might want to look at. That's what I was kind of
yeah, if you want to have it rewrite content, Quillbot is the one for that.
Okay, yeah. That's I couldn't remember all your summary. So what's Jarvis good for, John?
Jarvis is like if you want to give it a keyword and have it write text about the keyword, and you know, in different voices or you know different dialects, you can control all of that.
Okay, yeah, because I think like on YouTube, I want to say like 90% of the YouTube ads I get are, I could tell it's a bot voice, you know, but
Yeah.
it sounds really good.
Like let's say you had let's say you like Craig's exercise where he outlines a book and he writes down all the chapters and the bullets. You could get Jarvis and you could drop all those bullets in Jarvis, and then bang, your content would be, you know, filled out, and then you just go through and edit it, put your voice to it, and you're done deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for myself, as well as how to, you know, support Woody in this developing of his alt abilities movement and supporting the disabled community. Yeah, and then the other ones, I don't know. Do you remember the other ones, John? A quick rundown.
They're just very similar. One of them was putting your text in and having it give you a voiceover. So that would be good to take your real existing testimonials and have voices put to them. I love that idea. And then the other one, I believe it was called Any Word. Any Word is very, I think it's just a lighter version of Jarvis. And then the Quillbot was the one that was for rewriting a book or rewriting content.
There's one called Copy AI that you didn't talk about that I found when I Googled, because I was curious if those were the only ones out there. And there's one called Copy AI.
There's a ton of them. Perry gave us a list of like 50, but he goes through everything and he basically gave us the cream of the crop. So there's not to say that's all that's out there. There's a ton of them out there.
Yeah.
So, and who knows, maybe there's better ones. I don't know.
I don't either.
It's almost like, you know, good enough is good enough in a lot of cases.
Yeah, seriously, just I always appreciate your early adopter mindset. So anyway, that, and I'm just trying to, for myself, John, I'm trying to figure out, you know, I'm getting new clients and to coach, and then I want to figure out how to sell my paintings, and I'm trying to figure out, some people say I don't need a website, that I can do all of it like on social media sites, but you know, I don't know if you have any insight about Facebook and Instagram going down the other day, if that was a planned thing or if they had some problems, but I mean, there's so much speculation going on. I kind of didn't want to be dependent. Rich and I talked about, like, you don't want to be dependent on a third party to have all of your business channel through.
Yeah, you should definitely have your own website. There's no doubt about that. You want control over your content.
Okay.
As far as like Facebook going down, Facebook runs on computers. Computers go down. Just, you know, as sad as that may be, they've got redundancy, and you know, the best laid plans, there's always something that can happen. So it wasn't down for very long.
No, only like 6 hours, but that was a first. Anyway, I just thought,
glitch. If your life revolves around Facebook, it's like, you know, why don't you go take a walk in the park and come back? I'm sure it'll be back before you are.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna move ahead with my website, and I'm sure I'll have you host it when I get it together. But I'm trying to figure out. I'm actually talking to a person that can develop branding for me, and because I joke and I say I can develop everybody else's branding and I can't do it for myself. You know, like the cobbler has no shoes, right? But anyway. So I'm trying to sort that out and what the best way, they only help. So I'm talking to this gal who I really like her work. She'll develop a brand and like a marketing plan, but they don't do the website. So I'm trying to sort out all that and then work with you and your team on it. I just have to, figure all the pieces out, but I'm in that direction. So I just thought if you had any advice for me, that's what because when you say, get your big idea and then find your audience, that's the whole game, right? I never can come up with a big idea for myself, and I can't find.
You're missing the first piece. The first piece is segmentation. And if you haven't segmented down and figured out, what's your most profitable segment, then you're going to remain in chaos until you do that piece. You can't really move forward and advance and figure that's like the first piece.
Right.
So
I've been trying, oh gosh, I'm going to lose my, I got to go plug in somewhere. My thing is down to 10%. Yeah, the whole three pieces I'm stuck on. So I'm just trying to take them, like, does my branding and my website, like, I'm kind of like, okay, how do I figure out the segmentation? Should I figure out the segmentation before I do the branding and the website?
Yeah, you want to know what you're doing first before you go into creation mode. I mean, I know you love creation. You're an artist. You love to create. Right. But in the business world and the marketing world, you have to figure out who are you creating for. And you have a lot of different things. So figuring out, like for me, I always segment all the pieces down and like, which one's going to be the most profitable? If I'm going to spend my time and I'm going to spend some wheels here, what's going to be the most profitable thing I could possibly do? And that's the segments. That's the segmenting I'm referring to. Like, and then once you figure that out, you're like, okay, why is this person going to want this? What's it going to do for them? Then you can start creating around that. What do they want? Why do they want it? How am I going to fill that gap for them? Then you're in creation mode. But if you're in creation mode before you figure that first stuff out, you're just kind of chasing your tail.
Right. And then
your tail might be wagging and going in all different directions and you're still trying to chase it.
Right. And for me, I love everything you spoke about today. I'm enrolled 100%.
Yeah, today was kind of interesting. That was like not planned, not rehearsed. I really had nothing when I came on here today. It was just I was going to see where you guys took me.
Yeah, well, it was good. We wrote down an interesting channel, but I'm 100% with you. I want to, what did you say? How did you say it? You said it's almost repulsive to do a one-time thing. That's what I'm trying to figure out, what I could do, like where I could create what you've done in your world. And I don't know how to figure it out. That's my big, I'm 100% with you. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that with what I have to offer.
Well, it's a lot of steps. I mean, to get where I'm at, I didn't just get here. I'm a 30-year overnight success, right?
Right. Yeah.
You just got to pick something and do. You have to figure out how you're going to be successful at one thing, and then you can multiply that. But until you get the one thing, if you're thinking about all these different things, like I got my fingers in so many pies that would frighten you, but they've all been layered on one at a time over the years. And it just, every one I layer on, it just takes me up to another level. So you just have to figure out what's going to be your first layer.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Don't overwhelm yourself with all the layers, because you just need one. You just need to start with one.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, Johnny L. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you and everybody. It's good to see everybody, even though a lot of screens are blank. All right, my darling. That's Allie out, I guess. I don't know if anybody has any.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap her up here, and we'll be back on. I think we're next week, same time. And so we will talk to you then.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Bye.